end of the day, this film was a lot. It made me realize my fears that I thought I had weren't what I thought I had. Like, I'm not scared of the ocean. Not really, no. What I'm really scared of with every fiber of my being is exploding into a pool of spiders. That is my new fear, unlocked forever.
It's everyone's fear now.
As well as my, I do not want to survive spider-based apocalypse. Absolutely not. Especially giant acid-slinging spiders that lay eggs in your entire body while you're still alive. Absolutely not. Kill me immediately. And what's really interesting about this, because honestly, if I survived, I would never emotionally recover if I saw a man melt into spiders. You would not be able to convince me the rest of my life.
I'm still not recovered.
I'm not filled with spiders now.
And it was on the TV. And I'm not recovered.
I was in this scenario in which I saw the man dissolve into spiders. I was near the spiders. I don't know. I'm not aware of everything all the time. They could have laid those eggs in me. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. Absolutely not. I'm for the rest of my life convinced I am of spiders. You need to murder me.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah. So before watching this film, I don't think I'd ever seen an apocalypse scenario that I was absolutely fine with dying in the first 3 seconds of. I did not need to make all the 4 days. I usually think like, oh, I'm going to survive or I'm going to try, you know. I'm not usually like, oh, immediately murder me. You know what I mean? I'm usually like, I'll like see what's up with living a little bit more. With this, absolutely not. But it is a relief to know that this apocalypse probably wouldn't take place. Not just like the spiders. I mean, maybe the spiders could happen, but as Gabe outlined very nicely, people aren't going to be doing this. So that part's nice.
We also probably won't unlock like another dimension. You know, we won't bring the upside down to the right side up. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I don't know. They're finding stuff in space, Gabe.
No.
Probably not spiders, but maybe other things that are terrifying.
Yeah, big Cthulhu monster.
As Gabe said, just because this specific scenario probably isn't going to play out, it's not to say there aren't people out there who would absolutely use the apocalypse as a staging ground for their darkest desires to enact violence and control. But as Gabe said, people already are going to do that. They might be a little more slick about it, but people are already doing that right now. But we have like the really nice light pollution to obscure our view from said things. And basically, the argument that we land in and that I'm going to kind of reinforce is that the people who are going to be trying to do that are in the minority. The people who are probably not going to be doing that are in the majority. So if we're following Assassination Nation logic from way back when, 10% of people are good, 10% people are bad, 80% are in the middle, but can be inspired to either direction. And if we're looking at it that way, like 90% of people have the capacity to be good, which is a lot. You know, that's a lot of humans. And the important piece is which direction people are inspired to follow. And I read the same part of the same book that Gabe was talking about, Paradise Built in Hell by Rebecca Solnit. And it honestly says just that. It reinforces the idea that the direction people are inspired to follow really matters. And that like in belief and thinking people are going to do good and acting in the way you want other people to act matters. It's going to influence what's happening, as well as like the fact that we are inherently connected. It all kind of ties back. So Solnit reinforces the idea that the direction people are inspired to follow really matters by saying, belief lags behind, and often the worst behavior in the wake of calamity is on the part of those who believe that others will behave savagely and that they themselves are taking defensive measures against barbarism. From the earthquake that shattered San Francisco in 1906 to flood in New Orleans in 2005, innocents have been killed by people who believe or asserted that the victims were the criminals and they themselves were the protectors of the shaken order. Beliefs matter. So ultimately, this take suggests that society has an influence over our perception of what's good and bad and what that can be. Morality, as much as people would argue is objective, is scientifically, from an anthropological standpoint, subjective to the individual, group, etc. So someone's understanding of justice will influence how they act in an emergency scenario. So it is in all of our best interest to believe that people are going to do good. Because that belief will spread. So belief in our fellow humans can also influence this. So if we're believing that people are going to be horrible and murder everybody, then like we're going to be on the defensive. We're going to be less likely to trust each other. And that's just going to perpetuate this kind of distrust that lands us in a situation of not being safe.
It's like what we saw in the film.
Exactly. And the belief about humans being bad is something that media honestly perpetuates, and is something that media uses to reinforce our allegiance to the oppressor. And because of that is dangerous. So like, honestly, this film, as scary as it was, is trying to position something kind of dangerous, as a lot of zombie movies do as well. And it like basically is just another instance of media perpetuating mistrust of humans around us that reinforces our desire to isolate from each other, which is like not our inherent way of being. It's oriented or motivated entirely by fear. And if you fear people, it's going to really like influence whether or not you're going to survive these disaster scenarios, honestly.
It's like propaganda.
It is 100%.
Yeah.
And it was very entertaining propaganda. I will give it that. I was scared the whole time. It was arguably a good movie.
Yes.
But
it was a very good horror.
It was a very good horror movie. But is it doing something it shouldn't be doing? I don't know. So the media we consume influences our perception of other people and can either be used to unite us or divide us. So essentially, this can transform this can transform by how connected you are to people within your community. So many communities are already built with the understanding of looking out for one another, with committees and people within it that act as inspiration to the people who live there to follow that understanding. Like we take care of each other. It takes a village. Like we're going to look out for each other in situations every day, but also in instances of disaster. So if you're like me and don't know any of your neighbors and actively avoid talking to anyone you don't already know, this might help motivate you to establish lines of connection to people around you. In that, it is the people around you that make survival in these scenarios possible. It's basically motivation to like go outside and make friends. Because I was like, I'm not going to go make friends because people are trash and I don't want them to come murder me. They don't want them to know who I am because they can't murder what they don't know. You know, you know what I mean? Which is like super like intense and irrational thing. But this is actually showing me like maybe you know what, Isaiah's right. I need to say hi to the neighbors when they're outside.
Talk to your block captain.
I don't know if we have that. We have a man who thinks he's the mayor of our block, but I don't know if he actually is.
You have to talk to him though.
But yeah, essentially it is the people around you that make survival possible, and it's motivation to basically establish connections and build spaces of camaraderie that create a sense of care for each other, because that ultimately will increase your chances of surviving a kind of scenario in which disaster unfolds. So Solnit continues to say the argument against such keeping in terms of like looking out for each other is often framed as an argument about human nature. We are essentially selfish, and because you will not care for me, I cannot care for you. I will not feed you because I must hoard against starvation, since I too cannot count on others. Better yet, I'll take all your wealth and add it to mine. If I believe that my well-being is independent of yours or pitted against yours, it basically will justify my conduct as natural law if I decide not to help you, if I decide to do harm, because survival of the fittest, man. It's capitalism's slogan.
Telling you, Orwell loves this stuff.
Yeah, if this whole idea sounds familiar, it's because much of our understanding of capitalism is built on that thought alone, in terms of its individualistic thinking and the survival of the fittest, super ableist, gross mentality. And the media we usually see surrounding the apocalypse generally suggests that capitalism and the harsh, cruel way it operates is inherent to us. It is who we are as humans. Humans just do that, you know?
Yeah.
It is built into human nature. We are inherently trash.
Yeah. Quoted Stephen King.
Yeah. Especially, and they like make it sound so inevitable, and that like even in the deconstruction of this society, humans will lean into capitalism and that way of being without the oppressive structures that exist.
And then you have Octavia Butler, who created Acorn. You're like, oh wait, maybe not.
Yeah, no. Oh my God, I love Acorn. If ever religion would have gotten me, it's that one.
Yeah. 100%.
But yeah, so like it really perpetuates the idea that even in the deconstruction of capitalism, we would still operate as capitalists in a destroyed society. And the book actually positions the opposite, which is honestly where I'm at now, that even though I wasn't sure that their intention was like, I am anti-capitalist now. It might be. I don't know. I didn't read the whole thing yet, but I will eventually. And basically, it goes on to say that we could have a reality in which that's not what everyone just thinks is the inherent way to be. It creates and inspires a reality where we are not doomed to capitalism forever. As it said, there's a system, but we made it so we can unmake it.
Yeah. In fact, it has not been this forever. It hasn't always been this. It's been this for a very short time. And we could say that didn't work and we can move on, try something new.
Absolutely. And like with this outlook, there's like a lot of hope for that. And I think a lot of apocalypse scenarios don't provide that hope. It's like, yeah, people are just going to do that. We don't even need capitalism at the end of the day because people are going to keep doing individualistic thinking and just like murder each other and like hoard resources. That's just what people do. And it's not. Ultimately, a lot of science says that and records of humanity doing stuff say that that's actually very much not the case most of the time. In fact, it's argued that to act in this individualistic and selfish way where we reject protecting each other often creates a world where every day becomes a social disaster, which honestly living in capitalism is. And when in reality, while sometimes disasters intensify this, sometimes it provides a remarkable reprieve from it, a view into another world for our other selves. So like, since we're watching Severance, and I know we're going to talk about it eventually, but it made me immediately think of that, where, but like in a good way, where the other world is like nice. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a happy place where the world is different and we don't got to be dealing with this anymore. So honestly, I was really thinking about that. And I was like, we really saw some of this play out during the pandemic, specifically where many community groups, families, and neighbors worked together to uplift each other, build like pods, like co-parented, like found ways to build educational support, systems of care, food resources, etc. Like lots of communities banded together to help each other. Family units became more connected and realizing that being home and away from work was more meaningful and like where they wanted to be, to the point where like people don't want to be at work as much anymore.
They don't want to go back
because they're like, oh my God, work means nothing. Family, community and connection actually mean a lot. And as the author kind of like positions that like these disasters provide us with a window into like what life could be without these oppressive systems, because you get to slow down and actually look at everything in a way that you haven't been able to before. You're able to like,
they've been distracting you.
Yeah, the light pollution is gone, and you're able to like actually like look at your neighbor and be like, wow, I actually care about them. You know what I mean? So yeah, when many people slowed down enough to be able to see what was actually happening around them, they also noticed like a lot of things weren't cool. And we even saw a slight shift in our government providing aid that was previously claimed was impossible in the pandemic through like stimulus checks, increases in welfare programs, healthcare, unemployment supports, that they were like, oh, we just don't have the money for it. And in reality, we're like, oh, look, money isn't freaking real. And we could have just been helping people this whole time.
Think about all the accessibility.
Who says there's consequences? Like, who decides?
Yeah.
There doesn't need to be, ultimately, because we're the one who made the stupid system. But yeah, inversely, we did see companies exploit already vulnerable populations to expand their own wealth. But as the author says, both exist and both show the great capacity for good the majority of people have, as well as the true face of a small minority of people who are pulling the strings to do bad stuff. And the book continues to really position the power of belief and how it influences our action as humans. It also provides many anecdotal and like experiences of people building strength and community in times of government and media absence. So very opposite of what we see in The Mist. And the takeaway being that if we were to truly believe that humans will act as they do in The Mist, it'll more likely play out that way. But if we instead choose to believe and inspire kindness and care, most people will return that energy. And honestly, that sounds way better. Than spider dissolve time. Absolutely not. Like, we could have just had a nice vacation from work in the store for a few days. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have to go. I'm watching From which is a show on Prime Video, and Evil Corp. Speaking of Minority with too much power, but the whole show is like this weird ragtag like community, and there's something that's sinister that's happening. But everyone's just like, this is an example of a community in which like people are going to work, right? Like there's a diner or someone's tending to the animals, but there's no money. There's like 30 to 50 people in this little town that is constantly under threat and they work together. They're not, and it's not because, oh, I'm going to like get money for it. It's, I'm doing this because we need to survive and I can help. This is the way that I can help and support my community.
And that's like, people are like, who would do jobs if we didn't pay people to do jobs? And it was like,
people have been doing jobs forever.
Yeah, like people would just do the jobs that need to be done so that everyone survives. The benefit is survival.
Yeah. Or they would do it better.
You get to have generations. Great. That is the reward. That should all the reward that is necessary.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. They just get to survive. They get to live their life. Yeah. They'll do it good and well.
And like get to be happy. Oh no.
Can't have that.
You get to sit in the sun. Oh, the worst. You get to have hobbies.
Yeah.
You get to see your kids.
Oh,
that's
God.
Why would anyone ever want that?
Thank goodness we have these people in power.
Yeah.
These
thank
like
goodness
small,
I have to work 9 hours a day.
1% has all the money. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's very good for us.
Imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. It,
what if we didn't have to? It would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's it is such an interesting idea that we have essentially created these narratives. Like we've bought into these narratives as a society and then perpetuated them to the point where it could be detrimental to us in the end because people would just continue to believe that. Sometimes that's all you know about other people is what you're told because you don't go outside. So yeah. And I really love that you brought in the pandemic for that section because it is really true and that's something that we really addressed even with Don't Look Up, right? It was this, there are people who are being dumb and being really scary, but they were already scary. They were already dumb. They just were Mrs. Carmody where their platform was risen and now they have a bigger megaphone and people were not already equipped with an understanding of the goodness that people can have. And so they were already expecting, like, of course the government would create an evil vaccine to hurt us because, I mean, honestly, the government has done that. But it's like, we're told that it happens so often and that there's no other, like, there's no alternative, right? It's just people are going to be evil. That's what King wants you to know.
Yeah.
So...
that like, you got to lock yourself in your house and don't talk to anybody, don't answer the door, etc. And it's like, actually, if you help now you have people to help you survive longer. Like they're not a detriment. Like their success is not your loss. And that's something like capitalism, just like we need to figure out how to deprogram because it just makes us like pit against each other in a way that's sad. Well,
that's what, in our, Alice in Borderlands episode, that was something I really appreciated was because there was a community that found each other, very similar to and from, where they were working together to work through these these puzzles and they were more than surviving, they were thriving, right? They were living it, right? The most of the situation they could have versus what you would expect to happen, what we often see in these like post-apocalyptic or disaster scenarios where it's like, oh, everyone's murdering each other. Of course. No, they're not.
It's not, of course.
It's not.
We really don't gotta. Like, we could just be nice.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. That all being said, The Mist is a wonderful movie. It is very fun.
Yeah, no, I was not crapping on it. It's just, I was crapping on, like, society thinking society's trash. That's, like, our thesis a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So,
that's what the thesis of horror is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's often, like, society has hurt us a lot. And so we use this as a way to, get that out. But I do think it's important to every now and again remind ourselves that that's not the case. Like that's one of the things I had to quit listening to true crime, right? Because I was only hearing true crime things or only reading true crime things. And I was like, oh my gosh, people are murdering other people all the time. Like nowhere is safe. It was really bad and damaging for my mental health until I stopped and was like, most people aren't murdered. Most people aren't a murderer, and you are safe. Like, I mean, there are dangers out there. Absolutely, you should be aware of them, but they're not only everything, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's also like recognizing the damage of systems versus individual people.
Exactly.
And like the system is trash.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely. 100%. That is the enemy.
Yeah.
People, your neighbor, probably not. Like, unless they're really wild. But like most of the time, they're not, you know, like people are just going to people. And sure, you got to meet people where they are. But it's a system that does it without even people doing nothing. Like, it's the one that we're doing the things.
Yeah. Well,
it's like murder. And it's like, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Even in the film, right? The real bad guys. I mean, like, there was a lot of bad guys. Okay. The spiders, number one bad guy. Number one horrible worst bad guy.
Yes.
The big tentacly elder god, he was fine. He was just hanging out.
Yeah, he's just walking around town.
Right. The bugs, all those other guys, fine. Spiders, number one. Number two, Mrs. Carmody. Number three, the people why the bugs were there. So not to spoil it.
Government.
Yeah. But people of power. So and again, it's just like those narratives, they push them so they can retain power. And yeah, it sucks.
And at the end of the day, they come save the day with flamethrowers.
Yeah, it's like you did this, and I don't care. I don't care that you have flamethrowers because I saw spiders. Saw a man burst into 1,000 spiders. You're gonna now use the flamethrower on me because I'm full of spiders. I want this to be over.
Yeah,
I have to go. I have to go. I cannot be here.
We're done now. It's fine.
Please release me from my spider flesh prison. I need to go. Please.
Yes.
SOS.
We're the same page.
That's the only disaster where I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, kill me.
Okay, that's fine.
We don't need to go to the pharmacy. I'm just gonna let asthma take me out naturally, and I'm gonna go sleep.
I'm gonna
go to the big sleep. And just never wake again to spider hell. I don't want to be here.
One of those times when I wish I had something I was allergic to, you know? Oh, fun fact. I'm allergic to spiders.
What? Oh, that's perfect. So you die right away. You don't even survive the egg situation. You're done.
They're like, they bit me, I'm dead. I'm done. Wonderful. Good. I'm a bad host. Hey, spiders. Bad host over here.
Don't lay eggs
in
here.
Eggs in this body. It's not good.
It won't go well.
It's not good. It's got a really bad Yelp review. You don't want it. There's X-ray on the body. Excellent. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. You learned some things, and hopefully we're inspired by some things. It's very, very few and far between that we have episodes where we can feel inspired instead of really sad. Which, honestly, this episode could have made us very sad. And when I programmed
it, a different way. Absolutely, yeah.
When I programmed it, it was with the intention of it's going to be really sad.
Yeah.
And I think it's like even in like last week's episode with Candyman, like that was still it wasn't as bleak as it could have been. Right?
Yeah.
And Swarm too. I'm finding that we've grown as well as society has grown. And I think that's wonderful. So let us know your thoughts. If you like The Miss, if you read the short story, tell me about it. I'm going to read it soon. And don't get married.
Well, you know, I don't want to say that eat your kids because we want to trust.
Yeah.
They won't
eat your kids. They'll protect your kids. They'll take care of them.
Yeah.
Ensure that they have all the right
Family
supplies.
Unit.
We're going to help each other.
Yeah. That's your partner. So
I will say that in the film, he didn't raise his kid. He wasn't taking care of that kid. But everybody else in the store was. He had like 7 new parents. All he ever did was run and cry.
It takes a village, Gabe.
It does. And he had a whole convenience store or a whole grocery store to raise him. Good job, boy.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.